Durant's got Ginobili on him. Give and go. Curry.
Yeah.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
We talking about practice.
Nope.
You're serious.
Yeah.
Give it up. You get it back. Oh, beautiful. Give back.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Give and Go podcast presented by Sport.media. My name is Daniel Freeman and I'm joined by Jared Gardner and Dylan Brown, who is not in front of me, which is really weird. But he's decided to change it up.
Why not?
And taking the seat that nobody really likes. But Brownie's just going for it. All right, we have a big show today, but we are going to start with the Warriors, who started the season 10-1. They were on fire. I mean, smooth sailing, what we basically expected coming into the season. But they have lost 5 of their last 7 games, including 3 in a row, which have been to the Rockets, Dallas, and then the Spurs. They also lost to the Bucks and the Clippers in that 7-game stretch. Are we overreacting to say that there's any chinks in the armour for this season? We're going to get to so there's the small picture of this season and the big picture of what it means moving forward. Let's start with the small picture. Are there any chinks in this armour, or is it just a fact that this just shows how good Steph is, and then when Boogie comes back, it's over?
I think it just shows how important Steph Curry is to this team, because I think we said it last season. We said they can afford to lose a Kevin Durant for a couple of weeks. They can afford to lose a Draymond Green for a couple of weeks. But when Steph goes out, just for some reason, they just don't play at the same level that they do normally. And I don't know if it's because he's always usually the primary ball handler, and he kind of runs their offense. Like KD does have a lot of the ball, but just for some reason, I think it does show just how important Steph Curry is to this team.
Yep, and the numbers match the eye test. I mean, in the Steve Kerr era, which is 5 years now, the Warriors are 22-22, so a 500 team when Curry doesn't play. With Curry, they're 254-47. So they go from a 500 team to a team that's won 84% of their games over the last 5 years. So, I mean, his influence, we talked about it. Durant might be the best player on that team, but Steph is by far the most important, and I think this has just shown that. We've also had the beef after the Clippers game between Draymond and Durant. Obviously, if you didn't see what happened, dying stages of that game, Draymond gets the board. Instead of passing it to Durant, who's standing there clapping for the ball, Draymond tries to take it full length of the court and try to, I think, pass to someone was the idea.
He's either going to pass it or pass back to Durant, I think was his idea. But
lost the handle on it, fell over, failed miserably. And obviously the Clippers went on to win in OT, but there was a lot of arky behaviour on the bench, and whenever Boogie Cousins is the peacemaker, you know it's not the ideal situation. But do you think, Brownie, that we're again overreacting a little bit, because Draymond has done this before? He's been fined for altercations with Steve Kerr. He's argued with Durant before last year. So is this what we've seen, or is it something a little bit different?
I think they're a professional team. They'll get it done this year, but beyond that, I don't see this team being together at the end of this season. I think they'll be professional, they'll win the title, and I think Durant's gone. From all accounts, he's gone.
Just like that.
Yeah, well, he is the softest superstar we've ever seen. So it's true. Look at him on Instagram.
That's it.
He replies to random nobodies.
Yeah, he does.
So,
he does. And we know all his Twitter accounts. Yeah. No, I mean, let's go to on the court Durant over this stretch. We'll leave his off the court to him. But over the last 4 games, so since the Draymond altercation, Durant is shooting just 39% from the field and is 1 of 17 from 3. So, and over that same stretch, Clay's 23% from 3 and 38% from the field. So when you don't have Draymond, who's obviously was suspended, came back for 1 game where he was hopeless against Houston, and then he's missed the last 2 with a sprained toe. And then obviously you got Steph, who's missing. If Clay and KD are shooting that poorly, especially down the stretch, there's a Mavericks game they were in it and he missed a couple of shots, same against the Spurs. I think this is just, they're going to be completely fine once, you know, Steph comes back. There's word that Boogie may even be back by start of January, so maybe earlier than expected, and Draymond comes back. They're going to be fine in terms of the short term, but yeah, the bigger question is the one we'll get to now, which is the fact that if this core stays together, which is going to be very difficult with cap space. But if they stay together, obviously excluding Boogie, because Steve Kerr's already admitted, like, Boogie is a one-year rental. They can't sign 5 max guys. So he's gone after this year. But if they kept those 4, I still think this team would go in favourites for maybe the next 2 to 3 seasons to win the championship.
100%.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing would be if Boogie comes back and dominates, would they allow Kevin Durant to walk and go to another team
And
then
try and keep
Boogie instead? I think structurally, just for...
More true, I mean...
It probably does work better just in terms of they already have an out-and-out scorer in Steph. They've got Clay, and Clay can spot up, shoot. Draymond can handle the ball when Steph isn't. Boogie is a very good player for his size and for his position. So
he was the best center in the league before the injury.
That's been their weakness is
the
size
center.
at the center position.
They've been like rolling through different centers every year. Like when
Jordan
Bogut,
Bell
when they started with Bogut, and then when they lost him, it's just been kind of
McGee, Bell, Looney,
sliding doors
everyone,
of just
Damian Jones. No, I think if Durant said he was interested in staying, if at the end of the season that's the word he gives them, I think it would be crazy to try and sign Boogie over KD. Yeah. But if you get the message from KD that I'm 95% gone, then I think it becomes an interesting conversation of, do you have that chat with Boogie? But the same thing, like, it all depends on what Boogie looks like when he comes back. Well, as I said, coming back from an Achilles for a guy of his size and weight, we don't have someone who's similar build who's come back and looked just as good as before. Yeah. So we're going to have to wait and see. Now, the questions they have is, obviously, Clay's going to be a free agent at the end of this season, so they've got that to deal with. Then the big one is that Draymond's contract. Obviously, Steph is signed up now until, I think he's still got 4 or 5 years left on that deal. KD's the player option, he'll opt out of it, and then the big question. But so if Draymond makes an All-NBA team, wins Defensive Player of the Year or MVP, which is not going to win MVP, but who knows, Defensive Player of the Year, probably right now he's not in the conversation, but he's done it before. The All-NBA team, maybe. He'll be eligible for the Supermax extension, which is going to be roughly $240 million over 5 years. Jesus. I don't know if Draymond is the kind of player that you're going to pay $240 million over 5 years. That would be roughly, if you just split it evenly, which never happens, but if you did split it evenly, that would be $48 million per year for Draymond Green.
No way you're paying that. No way.
If they did, they'd back end that, and he'd be earning $50 million in one season.
It'd be even worse. And then on top of that, is Draymond's 28, 29 around that mark, so he'd be like 32, 33 earning. Like, that's worse than John Wall's contract.
You don't pay that for a defensive player.
No.
He's not even a shooter, and he can't shoot now. He's lost his shooting touch. So
he's shown spurts where he looks like he can be not a knockdown shooter, but for when he's playing at center, a decent 3-point shooter. But he is streaky. He has his hot and cold stretches. That's for sure. So yeah, I think they have a big question of what they do with Draymond. Even if he doesn't make it, it's still 200 at 5 years. So it's still going to be a big pay packet for a guy who, as you said, he's a glue guy. He does a little bit of everything. But he's not your, look at me, I'm at 25 points per game.
Well, I'm just having a look at his averages right now. Yeah. 6.9 points a game, 7.2 assists, 7.5 rebounds, just under a block, and just under 2 steals a game.
See, when you look at that, you think it would be criminal. But it is all the intangibles he brings that you're getting paid for. You're not for the stat line, but still, I think 40. Anywhere over $40 million a year for Draymond is too much.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because I don't know what another team would offer Draymond, because I think he looks as good as he does because of the system he's in.
And it's such a risky one of like, do we pay him all that money if he comes to our system and he's not the same player? We're stuffed.
Yeah, I think there'd be very few teams that would offer him max money just because of the way he plays, and he's just not a superstar.
Yeah. And again, if it is another team, the only thing is that they won't be able to offer him as much, obviously. Yeah. So if he doesn't get that, hit the clause of the All-NBA Defensive Player of the Year, another team could only offer him $150 over 4 years. So it wouldn't be quite as bad, but in terms of the contract. And then, but if they re-sign, so if they decide to re-sign Draymond and Clay, in 2020-21, they're probably going to be looking at around 110 million for just Green, Thompson, and Curry. So that's if Durant, obviously there's no way you fit Durant into that as well. So look, they do have some questions. I think for this season, they're going to be fine. Look, their numbers, they're scoring about 18 less points over the last 7 games than what they were through the first 11. Their assist rates are down. Their shooting percentage, especially from 3, has dropped. This has just shown us what we already knew. They're not very deep, and outside of Steph, Clay, and Durant, they don't have a whole lot of shooters. Quinn Cook's all right, but they don't have knockdown shooters outside of their star 3. So, look, nothing that we really didn't already know, and they are going to be fine. As Steve Kerr said, this is the real NBA. We haven't been in the real NBA for the last few years. So this is a little bit of adversity, but I think they're going to be fine, all things considered when it's said and done. All right, moving on to 2 teams out west who are more than fine right now. They are absolutely flying. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Los Angeles Clippers right now sit 2nd and 3rd in the West. We touched on Portland, who's been really impressive. We touched on them last week. But Memphis and the Clippers. So Memphis have won 4 straight. The Clippers have won 5 straight. They're right now both on 11 and 5. Which, for a bit of perspective, the Timberwolves, who are second last, have 7 wins. So, look, the second and third in the space of 2 weeks, they could be, if they lost every game, they could be at the bottom. So, the West is so even at the moment that that second and third probably makes it look a bit better than it is. But still, Memphis have victories over the Bucks, the Nuggets, the 76ers, and the Jazz. The Clippers have the Thunder, Rockets, Bucks, Warriors, and Spurs that they're beaten. So, it's not like they're running over terrible teams. They're actually beating some pretty decent teams. Look, some of the Clippers wins, the 2 Houston ones, one CP3 didn't play, one Harden didn't play. The Warriors didn't have Steph. So there's been some. The Thunder didn't have Westbrook. So, look, there's some, you could say that that game maybe wasn't a true reflection, but they've been pretty impressive overall.
Yeah, I from what I've seen of both teams, they've just been a lot better than what we expected. I think the Clippers is interesting because
best team in LA.
Well, at the moment, I'd say I think when
record-wise,
middle of last season, when Blake Griffin got traded to Detroit, as a Detroit fan, I kind of looked at that and I thought, I really like Tobias Harris because he was a great scorer. I know Blake Griffin is a top guy in the NBA, so I was never going to pass up getting him. But I was really sad to lose Tobias Harris. But then Avery Bradley wasn't any good. Boban was the other one that was coming off the bench for the Pistons and playing really well. So he's had a really good season so far for the Clippers.
Bobby's just a matchup nightmare.
Yeah, he is. And Tobias Harris is a really good player, and I think he's a great scorer. Yep. I never thought he's the guy. He's going to be a number 1 scorer for a team that's top 4 in the conference. But he is a very good player, and it's worked for the Clippers so far.
Yep. I think the interesting thing for the Clippers, I mean, we're going to talk about Memphis in a second, who are just defense. The Clippers came into the season preaching defense. That was going to be the way they won games. It's what Pat Bev kept saying. That was the thing that they were going to lean on. But right now, they're 20th in the league in defense. So they're not a top 10, let alone top 5 defensive team, but they're 3rd in the league in offense. They're putting up 118 points per game for a team that doesn't have a superstar. So the thing is that while they don't have a superstar, they have 3 guys who are averaging either just 20 or just under. You got Lou Will off the bench, and then Gallinari, who's finally healthy, which this is what we wanted to see last year, but he only played low 20s games with all the injuries he's had, and then Tobias Harris as well. And Gallo's shooting 46% from 3. The bloke can't miss. He's just lights out from 3. And I think the big thing with the Clippers is you just go down their roster. They don't have a bad player. They don't have any superstars. But every single guy you go down that list and you go, you're good. Even guys like Mike Scott, who you're like, they're not superstars, but he comes in, he's hitting ridiculous percentage from 3, and he hit 6 threes against the Hawks and pretty much saved them yesterday. So it's these guys who aren't big name players who are just playing above their ability. Montrezl Harrell, the perfect example, who was my hot 2 weeks ago, is just insane. Again, he had like 25 points against the Hawks. And then on top of that, you got Shea, who's, that future of what he could turn out to be. I think he could be an all-star. He's going to be a fringe all-star. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar, but he projects as a really, really good player in his first year. So
yeah, he's been a lot better than I think a lot of people expected early on in this season.
Yeah, he's just so crafty. He's got a good feel for the game. He's always in control. Yeah, every now and then he has one of those plays where you're like, you're a rookie. That was stupid. But overall, he's been really good. But the thing for this team is that as good as they are right now, they've decided to not tank. So they're not going the draft picks way. They're clearly going for, we're trying to position ourselves as a free agent destination. Look, we got this really nice young core, and right now we're looking like a playoff team, and we don't have a superstar. Do you want to be our superstar?
Yeah.
Is a superstar going to go to the Clippers, though? This is the question. Because whether they like it or not, they're the team that's never won anything. And as much as I like to carry on about saying they're the best team in LA, they're the baby brother to the Lakers.
Purple and gold. I think Kawhi Leonard would love going there because he's in the shadow.
He seems like the one who maybe
he'd be the one that'd like to be in the shadows as the second team in
doesn't want to
Los
be
Angeles.
There. Yeah.
I think that would be a perfect fit because I don't see him wanting to go to the Lakers.
He's already hinted he doesn't really want to play with LeBron. So I think he's the most likely. I think the Durant's a little bit wishful thinking. Just because I think the Madison Square Gardens pool is gonna be too much if he does leave, which I think Durant's stupid if he leaves. But anyway, it's his decision. But yeah, I don't see that one happening. And then Klay Thompson's another one who's been talked about. I can't see him leaving the Warriors, but
if he's to go to Los Angeles, it'd be the Lakers because he's dad.
Yeah, very true, very true. But yeah. Look, I think the Kawhi one, there's a chance. I think there's a legitimate chance, especially if Toronto, with the East, we talked about being so loaded up the top. There's a chance, as good as Toronto are, that they might not make it out of the East. And there is a chance that they could run into the Celtics or Philly in the semi-finals and or even the Bucks and bow out. And I think then we get into the conversation and maybe Kawhi will leave. Yeah. If they make it through to the finals, though, I think Kawhi might stay. Just because he seems like he's working on that team. He's fallen off a bit in terms of his numbers from when he started, but he's still been pretty good. All right, touching on the Grizzlies, who opposite of the Clippers, they have the third best defensive rating in the league. They're conceding 100 points per game exactly, which is the best in the league. So in a league where everyone's putting out 130, the Grizzlies are playing you 98, 95. So look, their scoring power is not great. They're second lowest in terms of points per game, and they play at the slowest pace in the league. So they're kind of doing that.
Do that.
Yep.
If they're the win, because
exactly.
they're not going to outscore you.
Exactly. And I think the main thing is that Conley's back. And this is why when we did our preseason thing, I had them as the biggest riser. Not because I think that they're going to make the playoffs. I still don't think they will. But just the fact that when Conley and Gasol are on this team, I know Gasol's 33 and, he's playing really well this season, but not the player when he was Defensive Player of the Year. But those two together are still really good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the roster now and the stats, and Conley averaging 19.5 and Gasol averaging just under 17. And then you got three other guys who are averaging anywhere between 10 and 13 points a game. So
Garrett Temple and Shelvin Mack.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these names.
Double-digit
Garrett
scoring.
Temple, Shelvin Mack, Marshawn Brooks. I didn't even realize he was still in the league. Guys like Kyle Anderson, who's been playing almost 30 minutes.
Yep.
He's been really good this season. Some interesting names on this roster.
And the big one, Jaren Jackson, who's been really good.
He's been good. He probably just needs to rebound a little bit more.
And his 3 percentage isn't great, but, that's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
Look, they're good. I don't think, if we're putting money on it in terms of will these two, obviously right now they're second and third. As of time of recording, it could change. I know the Clippers played today, but could these teams make the playoffs?
I can't see either of them making it just because I'm looking at who's sitting outside right now. We spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. The Rockets are sitting in 9th. The Spurs are sitting in 11th.
The Jazz
are sitting in 12th, who they're kind of... We don't know what they're going to be yet this season.
They're a bit confusing, the Jazz.
But I think just with how close the West is, I think eventually it'll even out and they'll kind of drop into those somewhere between 9 and 12.
Yeah. And as I said, even with the Rockets, like they're ninth and Memphis is second, but there's only 3 games between them. Like it's not like there's this huge gap they have to catch up on. And especially the Rockets are looking a lot better. But in terms of where we thought they were going to be, they've certainly been incredibly impressive.
Not foul anybody here on the dribble. It's going to be James. Here it is. See, it's under 3 seconds to go. Throws up the floater. Good night, Cleveland. That is for you.
All right, on the clock. First question this week. We've had 1 week now to see Jimmy in action for the 76ers. What are your takeaways from Butler's first 4 games with the 76ers?
It's been a real interesting real interesting week for the 76ers just because we didn't know how Butler was going to affect Ben Simmons, how he was going to affect Joel. I think it showed what they wanted him for, that closing ability. I think we'll look at it a bit later, the block and the dagger to hit to defeat Charlotte. They beat the Jazz and they beat the Suns, so they're beating teams that haven't been too convincing so far this season. So I really don't know what to make of it yet. He's fit in well. He has shown that he doesn't need to be the man. Like that's still Joel's role for now. Whether that kind of changes as the season goes on and they kind of get a bit of chemistry going, because Joel kind of didn't really have another guy who could take the mantle and take the ball and win the game for them. So I think that'll settle throughout the season. But an awesome first week, and I'm really excited to see this team later in the season.
Well, I think he showed exactly why they bought him in that Hornets game. That's what they bought him in for. Like they need that guy to close games for them. That's exactly what he did. He nearly hit the game winner at the end of regulation and then eventually hit it in OT. Simmons, we talked about Simmons. In the first 2 games, he took just 5 shots in that game against the Magic and then just 9 versus the Jazz. Really passive and alarm bells a little bit. Yeah. But then the last 2, he's been much more aggressive. He had 23 points on 13 shots against the Hornets and 19 points on 13 shots against the Suns, which is more about where he's been at for the season in terms of field goals attempted. So better. As for Fultz, if you saw the thing this morning from his attorney, Raymond Brothers, who said that he will see a shoulder specialist early next week, will not participate in team practice or games until he's evaluated again. Yeah, this is going to make a great 30 for 30 one day.
I want to see how Jimmy Butler feels about that.
As I said last week, hide Markelle Fultz because it's just going to be a disaster. But yeah, look, his trade value is just plummeting every single day. All right, Brownie, what do you make of the Lakers' inconsistency, especially on defense? That's the key point here early in the season.
Well, talking about the Magic game, I think they just got jumped. I think they expected the roll in easy win because they had a back-to-back.
The Magic are okay. They're not good, but they're okay.
They're all right. So I think they got jumped in that game, but defensively they're still a mess. They need to fix it up. I still think some of the players don't know what they're doing, but I'm not concerned because at the moment
they got LeBron.
Well, they're 9-7, and when LeBron joined Miami in 2010, they had a 9-8 start, and they had 2 All-Stars. So
3
with Bosch.
3. Bosch always seems to get forgotten about. But I've still got an issue with Luke Walton. He still hasn't figured out the rotation. So it's been a mess, and it gotten worse with Rondo being injured with his broken hand. Yeah. So, but one positive out of that is the fact that LeBron's had the lowest minutes in his career, so they can take that out of that. But one big statement I'm going to make, Ingram has to come off the bench as a 6-man. Start Josh Hart.
Ooh. Not saying to trade him this week.
Not trade.
Just sit him on the bench now.
Have him come off the bench because Hart actually looks to attack, shoot threes, go to the basket. Ingram, when he gets the ball, he seems lost. Doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing, and no one else knows what he's doing. So
strong from Brownie. I like it. That's why I give you the Lakers questions. All right, Jared, we had the big news. We've talked about the Wizards every single week. So sorry if you are a Wizards fan and you're completely sick of us hating on you, but you're terrible. So
they're garbage. Straight garbage.
They're garbage. All right, so after basically Ernie Grunfeld was not engaging in talks, he didn't want to trade anyone. He's now said, they've come out and said that everybody is on the trade table.
It's taken him only like 4 years. But anyway.
Yep, he's finally decided that this may not work. Will the Wizards still have Beal and Wall on their roster by the trade deadline?
I think they'll have one of them.
Yeah.
I don't think both will be there.
Okay, then. Second question. Are they going to be able to keep Beal? Because that's the one they probably want to keep. But is that the one they're going to keep and be able to get rid of the others?
I think it's two different scenarios with these two players. Beal, they're going to play hardball and look for the best offer possible. John Wall's probably the one that's a bit more volatile and
he's going to be making nearly
especially with his contract.
They're not trading that.
Well,
$47 million
the
in
thing would be
2023.
if he's the problem in the locker room at the moment, they are gonna go. They're gonna take unders for him, and teams will realize that, and it's gonna. I think it could be a scenario like what happened with Blake Griffin last year. No one thought like they're not going to take his contract. He's not worth $40 million a season. But when John Wall's at his best, he's
a really good player. It's just, can he help the team win?
Yeah, I think he was, if not the best, one of the best two-way guards or two-way point guards in the league. So when he's at his very best, he can be at that level, and I don't really see him slowing down anytime soon. So I think if he gets in the right situation, so I think a team will offer and they'll pay unders for him, and the Wizards will accept that. So, but Beal's the harder one
because they don't hold the cards with Beal. What about Porter? Just quickly, are they going to find? Because he's the one who was talked about before, but this season he's been awful. Yeah,
well, he's a different one because I think as Kelly Oubre, he kind of shouted out Wodge when he found out about that everyone was on the table, but he might be a bit pissed off when he finds out that he's probably got one of the lowest values in the team. So they can't look to get rid of Oubre. So Porter's obviously the next option. Again, it's a bad contract. So
he's the 17th highest paid player in the league this year. 17th. And the guy's averaging about 10 points on like career low shooting numbers. He's coming off that. He's not even finishing games anymore. So they're a mess. All right, Brownie. The Rockets have won 4 straight games.
Yep.
Are they slowly starting to turn their season around?
I think so. They had pretty solid wins against Indiana, Denver, Golden State. They're all playoff teams. Impressive.
And even the Kings are not bad anymore. Yeah. They're quite good.
Yeah. And even they limited Oladipo in that game against Indiana. So they're showing that defensively they're starting to pick it up.
Kept the Warriors to about 86. Obviously they didn't have Steph, but still.
Yeah, and held the Nuggets to under 100 as well. So they're starting to get better, and they got rid of that cancer that is Carmelo Anthony. I used to be a big fan of Carmelo, but he's been to 3 teams now. He's shown that he's a cancer in the locker room now. He's done. Finished. Cooked. Over.
Will he be in China by 6 months'
I don't think
time?
his pride would take him there. I don't think so. But
I can imagine a gold statue of Melo in China after he's won 7 championships in a row, averaged 74 points on 103 attempts per game. I don't know.
He'd have the green light for days over there. Just let it fly.
He'd have the green light from half court.
But one thing to say, the Rockets, they could easily go for a double-digit win streak because they've got Sacramento, Detroit, Cleveland, Washington, San Antonio, and Chicago. So they could easily be a win streak coming.
I'm still convinced they're going to end up being in the finals against Golden State. So, I think they're going to figure it out. And as well, we talked about it when they were struggling, how the shots just weren't falling. So over their last 4 games that they've won, they're shooting 39% from 3 as a team. That's up from they were at 33% for the entire season, and 49% from the field. The whole season they're at 43, which is second worst in the league. So finally some of those shots are falling, but that defense as well is starting to look a bit better. All right, Jared. He finally gets to talk about his Duke team. Obviously, Duke are the Warriors of the college basketball scene this year, but who is the best prospect on this Duke team?
If you're talking about coming into the NBA...
Yes, coming into the NBA, not for this year.
I think it's RJ Barrett.
Yep.
He's been a bit overshadowed by Zion Williamson, who's just been...
the hype,
absolutely mental this season. And Zion's been averaging 22 points a game, 9.5 rebounds, a couple of assists, almost 2 steals and 2.5 blocks, shooting 74%.
Yeah, not great. Oh, sorry, not great. Sorry, that is fantastic. I thought that was from the free throw line.
No,
very good.
but
Field
yeah,
goal.
RJ Barrett's been averaging 24 a game with 4.5 rebounds, almost 5 assists, and shooting good numbers, 43% from the field, 34% from three, which is like not too bad. 65% from the free throw line is probably the only concern. But his skill set translates really well to the NBA. I think he's probably going to be the number one pick unless a team really wants to go big and go with Zion. So
And Reddish as well.
yeah, Reddish has been awesome. He's got pretty much the forgotten man on this Duke team because he's such a great shooter and he's shooting the three at 43% this
90%
season.
from the free throw line.
Yeah.
So that's always when you shoot that free throw percentage is usually a good indicator of your shooting stroke. Because if that's struggling, then generally if you're hot from three, it might just be a bit of a streak.
Yeah, and if you don't get into college ball all that often, now is the time to get into it. Just watch Duke because they're just destroying teams
highlight
at the
play
moment.
after highlight play.
And yeah, they've finally got the number one ranking, so they're just going to be an awesome team to watch. I don't see them losing.
What's
this
their
season.
coach's name again? Coach K.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has the easiest job
yeah.
in all of America. He doesn't have to do anything. All right, Brownie. Who has been the MVP through the first month of the season? So not who will win it at the end, just if it was awarded right now, who deserves it?
Right now, the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, which I didn't butcher that.
Yeah, well done.
Surprisingly. He's averaging 25 points per game, 12 rebounds per game, and 5 assists. The Bucks are 12-4, currently second in the East. They've had some impressive wins against the Warriors. I can't remember who else, but
lost to the Clippers, but that's all right.
That's fine. They can pick up a couple of losses. That's fine. But Giannis is just a beast.
He's
just.
So
if he gets a jump shot, it's game over.
Okay.
Like he's
Fair
just
enough.
that good.
I'm very surprised you didn't pick LeBron, but I'm impressed as well.
LeBron is slowly coming up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be biased, so Giannis and the Bucks have been playing really well, so the Lakers are only just starting to get some wins on the board, so I can't give it to LeBron just yet.
Just yet. Give it another month. All right. Jared, who would you give it to if it was right now? I'm putting you on the spot a bit.
No, I'd probably say Giannis right now.
All right.
The closest second would be Anthony Davis.
I'll throw it. What about Embiid?
No,
Nearly
I don't like
28 points. Yeah, I know you don't like, but nearly 28 points per game, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks.
Yeah.
Another one
They're a
who's
bit up and down.
Look,
though,
I don't think I don't think
thing.
he's going to keep this up, but we haven't talked about Kemba Walker, who is just on fire. He's dropped over 100 points in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, that is ridiculous. He leads the league in points per game at 29.6, shooting just under 39% from 3, still averaging 6 assists per game. He has just been lights out.
And before the season, I don't know if I said it on the podcast in our preview show before the season, but I thought Charlotte were going to blow it up this season and Kemba would be gone by the deadline. But now
someone had them as the worst record in the league, maybe.
The curses. The podcast curse is legit.
Sorry to throw you under the bus, Brownie. But yeah, he's been so good. He's so much fun to watch as well. He's one of those guys who, like, if you see he's got 40-odd, you just want to watch his highlights because you know there's a couple of really nice moves in there as well. But yeah, what we thought coming into the season has not materialised for them. That is for sure. All right, Aussies in action. Let's start with Simmons. We've already really touched on him mostly when we talked about the 76ers, but how's Simmons' week been, Brownie?
I'll just start with a 3-point update. He still hasn't put one up, so
0.
No threes at the moment. But in a win over Miami, he had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal. He had 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 block in the loss against Magic, so not too well there. Then a win against the Jazz,
This
10
is where
points.
he started getting more into it.
Yeah, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block.
Yep.
And then against Charlotte, he had 23 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and was 81% from the free throw line, 9 from 11.
That's
just
what we
put it
want to
out.
see.
That's it. That's what we want to see, some dropping some free throws against Charlotte. Then he had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 1 steal in a win over the Suns.
All right, I like it. So he's been, look, the start of the week
Solid
with
week.
Jimmy wasn't great, but the end of it's starting to look a lot better. All right, Jingles.
A bit of a slower week for Jingles. Started off 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists in 25 minutes against Dallas. They did lose that game by 50 points, so everyone was a bit down for Utah.
I don't understand how they lost by 50 points.
Yeah, it still doesn't make sense. And then his best game of the week came against Philadelphia, still in a loss, played 33 minutes, 14 points, a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists, a block and 3 steals, which kind of, if that's the best game of the week, it's not been too good. Only 7 points, 6 assists and 3 rebounds against Boston in a win, and then 5 points, 5 assists, a rebound and a block against Indiana. They lost by almost 30 points in that one.
I'm telling you, that headband needs to come back because ever since he took it off, it's not looking good. All right, Exum.
He's been getting some solid minutes, but he hasn't been the
Production-wise.
Production-wise, a bit meh. He had 9 points and 1 assist against Memphis. Then pretty poor against Dallas in that loss. He had 3 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, and a steal.
Yep.
And then in the loss against Philly, he had 7 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. And then in the win against Boston, he had an all right game. 10 points, 7 rebounds for a guard, which is pretty good. 3 assists. And then in the loss against the Pacers, he only had 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Yep.
So, yeah, not the best.
Not the best. All right, Delhi played just 3 minutes this week in one game, which was a blowout against the Bulls. Had 0 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist. Bainesy, he was actually inserted into the starting lineup for the Celtics versus the Hornets. Took Hayward's spot, so they obviously listened to our podcast and decided to take Hayward out. He only played 7 minutes, though. So he started, but his minutes were way down. So he only played 7 minutes. He had 2 points, 2 boards, and 1 block. So not great, and they lost the game. So not great from Bainesy. The rest of his week, okay. His best performance was 9 points, 11 boards, and 2 blocks in the win versus the Bulls. But I found this stat on Twitter. I'm not going to take credit for it. It's from Dom Papagallo. Hopefully I said your name right. But here is some, as he says, some random Aaron Baines stuff. So, Bainesy, from 4 to 14 feet this season, is shooting 75% on his attempts, which is in the 96th percentile, which the way percentiles work, the closer to 100, the better. From 3-point percentage, he's shooting 38%, which is in the 73rd percentile, so very good. All 2-pointers away from the rim, he's shooting 67%, which is in the 97th percentile. From 4 feet or closer, aka layups, he is shooting 35%, which is in the 0 percentile. So, Bainesy, mate, please make some layups, would you?
Thought it'd be easy when you're near 7 foot.
You're hitting everything else, except you can't make a layup to save your life. Come on, mate. All right, so thank you very much, Dom. That's brilliant. That's the best stat. That's the best stat I've seen in a long time. All right, Thon Maker.
Well, he going from to worse. He has barely any minutes most games, but
Has he towards the end? Because Henson is now out for a while. So has he got any minutes with Henson being out?
In the loss against Memphis, he only had like 5 minutes or so. He had 3 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist.
Yep.
In the win over Bulls, I would have thought he would have had more minutes, but he only got 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. And then against Denver in a win, he only had 3 minutes. That was it.
So that's all his minutes this week.
Yeah, he hasn't been used that much.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, look, our Bucks Aussies are not doing very well, all things considered. Paddy Mills. Forgot about Paddy.
Yeah,
again.
Paddy.
I do it every week.
He's had an interesting week. 12 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds. Well, actually, started the week with 8 points, 3 assists, and 3 steals against Phoenix, and then that game against the Clippers.
Any blocks this week? That's the big
no
question.
blocks this week.
Oh, he didn't add to his career high too.
And then 8 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists against the Warriors.
Yep.
And then his minutes dropped completely. Only played 13 minutes against the Pelicans and had 2 points and 2 steals.
Yep. The Derek White effect starting to starting to take his minutes away. Bolden unfortunately suffered a small cortical crack in the proximal fibula.
What?
Which basically mean he hurt his leg. So he hurt his leg, and he will be reevaluated in 10 days. I don't know. We don't have an update on our G Leagues, do we? I think
I do. Also,
do.
before the G Leagues,
Ryan
broke off.
Yep.
Played 8 minutes in that 50-point win over Utah.
Oh, look at
Didn't
him
miss a
going
shot.
for it.
2 of 2 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3.
Getting buckets.
2
when they're
rebounds
up
as
by
well.
40.
Yeah, so junk time minutes, but he's making his shots and he's showing his worth.
Yep.
But then
He really contributed in that game.
Other than that, only 35 seconds. Came in for the last 35 seconds against Memphis when they were down by 10
carried
points.
them, though, for that 35
Yeah,
seconds.
so
I don't know how.
Yeah,
It's so weird
35
coming
seconds.
out like you're all suited for the whole game, and then
I'm ready, guys.
you
I'm
jump
ready.
on for 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
yeah, so I hope he gets more of a run later in the season. Maybe when Dallas' season is kind of downhill and they're looking to tank.
Written them off
Rowdy and get some
already.
minutes. In the G League, Mitch Creek hasn't played because the Nets haven't played all week.
Okay.
So they played
How does that
today.
work?
I don't know how the scheduling works, G League, but they played today, so he'll get another run. Dengadal had 15 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists against the Bayhawks. Then 4 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. And then 13 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals.
I think that was in the game versus Philly where Bolden hurt himself because I think they versed each other.
So it's an all right week. Isaac Humphries, his week's kind of gone a bit not as well as he would have expected.
Not as well.
5 points and 1 rebound. He started but only played 16 minutes. And then in a game against the Knicks, played 30 minutes, only 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. And then was dropped to the bench in the second game against the Knicks for the week. Only played 7 minutes in that one, didn't score, and 3 rebounds.
All right, if any news corporations want writers about Australian G League players, Jared is available because he has the G League players on absolute lockdown. All right, that is all our Aussies for this week. We're going to finish it up with, it must be said, a fairly weak best plays of the last week. There was not many good ones, but we're going to get into that now.
Okay, we start our plays of the week this week with a perfect inbounds play to get Reggie Bullock game winner in Toronto in Dwayne Casey's first game back. A great win for Detroit over the best team in the East so far this
Casey
season.
was absolutely loving it. All right, Karl Anthony Towns. Jimmy is gone, and Cat is turned into a defensive beast. He blocks Anthony Davis, then gives it to Wiggins, who Draymond-style assaults Mirotic, somehow gets the N1, and the Wolves went on to win this game. Great block from Towns, and then questionable N1, but hey, it counted, so well done by the Timberwolves. And then we go to San Antonio, well, actually to LA, but DeMar DeRozan with a beautiful spin move layup. Shame they lost the game, but, well done.
Then we go to Jimmy Butler with the mega block to save the game and let it go to OT.
And saved it as well, kept it in bounds.
And then, as he's known for his clutch shots, just drops it right in front of the defender. He's just that good.
Poor
Exactly
Kemba
what
puts
Philly
up.
wanted
Yep,
him
exactly
for.
what Philly needed.
Yep.
Poor Kemba puts up 60 points, and
still-
Jimmy Butler decides to ruin it. So, no, Jimmy certainly showed out in that game, and I love the call right afterwards. The 76ers commentator was like, Jimmy, you're a 76er now, or something like that. It was a really, really good call. The 76ers commentators get very hyped up. That is for sure. All right, that is all we've got for this week. Now, if you've made it to this point, congrats. You're probably the only one, but there may be some changes to the podcast format in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out. We'll see a few changes with job stuff, but we'll see what happens. But thank you for listening, and we will see you whenever we see you next time.